Bill O'Reilly is wondering on this program, wait a minute now, why isn't the rest of the media covering IRS official Lois Lerner's testimony in Darrell Issa's trumped-up congressional hearings where he literally cut the opposition's mic and wouldn't let them speak? Gee, I wonder if that was a political stunt. Well, one possible explanation for that is that this is not a controversy. It's been proven over and over again that the IRS, yes, investigated conservative groups and also investigated progressive groups. In fact, after thorough analysis of both, the only group that they followed up on was a liberal group, not a conservative group. So the rest of the media doesn't cover it because we already got that story. Now, every time Fox News covers it, they leave out that the IRS also did investigations of liberal groups. That's because they like to lie and they like to do propaganda for the Republican Party. And then they say, it must be that the rest of the media is biased. But O'Reilly and Bernie Goldberg, his media analyst here, are going to take it one step further. Watch.
Now, it's obvious that to me and to you, and we've been discussing this for 5 years, you wrote a book on it, that the American national media is protecting President Obama. All right? They're protecting him. Okay. This, beyond any reasonable doubt, is the smoking gun. Because this story is an important story. And yet the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, all the network news, evening newscasts, they didn't mention it until Issa got into the little brawl with Cummings, and then they just did that.
Right. The reason is very simple, because Barack Obama is president. I know that sounds simple, maybe too simple, but it's the truth.
What other explanation could there be?
Imagine if George W. Bush were president, the IRS were targeting his political enemies during an election year, no less. What other explanation is there? Let's go back to the beginning. What other explanation is there other than that they're covering for their guy?
And he's their guy because he's a liberal African-American? Is that why he's their guy?
Yeah. Yeah. He is their guy. He's young, he's cool, he's black, and he's liberal. That's it.
Oh, okay, well, that explains it. I was wondering why they're not covering a story that isn't really a story. It's because Obama's black. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so, again, this guy's a master at propaganda. Bernie Goldberg, you wrote a book on it. So then everything Bernie Goldberg says must be true because he wrote a BS book about how the media is all liberal. Well, he wrote a book on it. Then he starts they're protecting Obama, aren't they? And Goldberg says, yeah. He says, okay, good. We've established that. So now let's go on to fact number 2. This is a smoking gun. It's a smoking gun because they're not covering this. And I love Goldberg. He says, well, it sounds too simple that they're protecting him just because he's black and liberal. Yeah, there's a reason why that sounds too simple. And how come they didn't protect him on all the other things that they criticize him mercilessly for? How about the rollout of the Obamacare? I mean, my God, thousands upon thousands of stories on the website didn't work. This is botched. It's a failure. When he said you can keep your insurance exactly as it is, the lie of the year, all this stuff. Weird how they didn't cover for the black guy in those stories. Anytime there's any hint of trouble, Obama, thanks Obama, right? What happened? Just on this IRS story, because everybody's not parroting Fox's total bullshit propaganda, liberal black, that's why the media is covering for him. God, the media has been so soft on him just because of that. What other explanation could there be? I mean, isn't that great? There's only 2 possible explanations. You must cover it exactly like Fox News, or if you don't, it's because you're covering for the black guy. And, you know, to be fair, though, this country has been so great to black people for time immemorial. Whenever black people walk, the liberal media, cops, everybody in power, they throw rose petals at their feet. And so here's another instance of the power establishment in this country saying, oh, you're black? Oh, yes, absolutely. Now, the reality is Obama does get a break from things like MSNBC, et cetera. They do use their power in a lot of ways to affect the media. But it's not because he's black. It's because he is the power establishment, right? And he uses that power to get the best media coverage that he can. It oftentimes does not work in the case of the healthcare rollout, et cetera. But it certainly ain't because they're looking out for black folks. I mean, over the last 20 years, you think Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton have gotten great coverage because they're black? I mean, how many things can I list to you where that's the most absurd thing you've ever heard in your life? But to the audience of Bill O'Reilly, they're like, yeah, that's it. No other explanation.